This is Picks on Politics with Dan Manarino.
And welcome to Picks on Politics, everybody. I am Dan Manarino, and this past week we have all watched a trade war play out in real time, initiated by President Donald Trump. Now, he ended up putting most of the tariffs on a 90-day pause, but upped the one against China to 125%. Now, China has matched that tariff on U.S. goods. So what does it all mean, right? How does it affect you? How does it affect your wallets? Well, today, Senator Cory Booker joining us to talk about those tariffs and about his record-breaking 25-hour speech on the House floor. He goes on the record. And Senator Cory Booker is now joining me from the Capitol in Washington, D.C. Senator, great to have you back here on Picks on Politics.
Thank you for having me. So appreciate you.
And let me begin first, Senator, with this 25-hour speech on the House floor, because it kind of backs into the entire conversation that I really want to have with you. You beat the record here of Strom Thurmond, who held the record for once trying to stop the civil rights movement on the floor. Now, we know he was unsuccessful. So let me ask you, first and foremost, your reaction to beating that record and your why. Your why for all of what you did on the floor at this moment in time.
You know, Strom Thurmond's shadow hangs over the Senate. This record, in many ways, was something that many of us on both sides of the aisle knew was a kind of a shameful mark. I was happy that this was an instance where I was able to sort of wipe him off the record books. But that's not the why, as you asked. The why really was lots of demands from my state, really from both sides of the aisle, to do more. A lot of these policies that my state and state leaders found threatening, from the massive cuts in VA and layoff of veterans, to the threats to Social Security, to the bill that would gut Medicaid and leave hundreds of thousands and millions, actually hundreds of millions, about 100 million Americans directly and indirectly affected and losing health care. And people were saying, what are you doing? You need to do more. And in many ways, this was an answer to that, and a way for me to center the voices of New Jerseyans and Americans. And we pulled from people who wrote letters all over my state and all over our nation, from both sides of the aisle. We read Republicans, including Republican think tanks, who were all sounding an alarm that this president was conducting the worst economic policy, some of the worst healthcare policy, and really not living up to what he said he would do, which is the lower costs for Americans. And instead, he was bringing uncertainty, chaos, and crisis.
Discussing this speech in the days after, that it was a moment to accept responsibility. I want to read one of your quotes that stood out to me. You said that the Democratic Party hadn't done enough and must accept responsibility for contributing to the pathway to this kind of president, end quote. So what do you think about the Democratic Party right now? Where did they lose their messaging, and where can they regain their footing on this path moving forward?
Well, at the end of the day, when someone votes for you, whether it's your presidential candidate or your senatorial candidate, it's an act of trust. It's saying that, you know what, I'm going to take a little bit of a leap of faith here and put my trust in you that you'll deliver. And at the end of the day, while we saw some pretty remarkable victories in the election in 2024, with Senate candidates winning in states that Donald Trump won, overall, we lost the Senate, we lost the House, and we lost the presidency. And so folks just got to realize that the Democratic Party didn't do enough to earn that trust. And I think what I tried to say, besides taking responsibility, which leadership first and foremost starts with taking responsibility, the second thing is to say to everybody that the Democratic Party needs to be less concerned with the Democratic Party and more concerned with the American people. Enough of tribalism. We need to start centering people, not party, centering our nation's well-being, not the party's well-being. And that's the first step, I think, in letting people know how much you are invested in their success. I always tell people, you know, a lot of smart people in Washington, or people that think they're smart, but people don't care how much you know until they really know how much you care about them, and that you're going to be every day standing up and working for their well-being.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's really ever questioned that about you. I've spoken to you many times, and you could always tell that you're passionate about folks on both sides of the aisle, right? Not just one party, the Democratic Party. You really focus on both sides. Let me ask you about affordability, because that is a huge topic. I know you hear it from your constituents. I know you heard it at your town hall that you did. And now we have these tariffs. Now, I know there's a 90-day pause, but the tariffs against China still stand. What do you make of all of this? Like you said, you lost the House, the Senate, and the presidency. So is there something that you and the Democratic Party can do to ensure people that you will address the affordability crisis, especially with the tariffs?
Well, first of all, I'm getting yelled at, understandably, by angry and outraged New Jerseyans, small business owners, people, again, from both sides of the aisle, are saying, stop this chaos. Businesses need predictability, and we're in this economic environment where there's still 10% increased tariffs across the board, a trade war going on with China, a pledge that, hey, we'll revisit this in 90 days. Well, that's not the certainty that businesses need. And so businesses are making cuts. We're losing jobs. They're passing on these tariffs to consumers, so prices are going up. This is a painful environment for New Jersey businesses and New Jersey jobs and more. And so when you ask what can we do, this really is a moment where we need to convince either 3 House Republicans or 4 Senate Republicans to change their votes. And we did that with Canada in the Senate to remove tariffs from them, but the bill died in the House. And so what we're trying to do, and I'm trying to do personally, is to inspire more action, more people to speak up, more people to speak out, more business people to speak out, to tell the president to stop this chaotic course that he's on that's undermining basic business principles and hurting our economy and consumers.
Senator, I've heard from many saying, well, can't Congress just do something and take that power away from the president? The power, I guess, to impose a tariff to begin with. Is that something that Congress could vote on and do?
God, yes. That's the problem we have right now with Donald Trump, is the way our government was designed by our founders was checks and balances. Congress has the power to check the president, to give him oversight or to stop these tariffs, but they have to act. Right now, what we've been seeing is, whether it's out of fear of Elon Musk running primaries and putting hundreds of millions of dollars against incumbent Republicans, they're afraid to step forward and exercise what the founder said we needed, which is a check on the president. We have the power. The question is, can we get some of the Republicans, especially those that are moderates in purple districts, can we get them to stand with us as Democrats, say, no, we're going to use the power of Congress to balance what the president's doing and to stop him from causing chaos that universally is being condemned by people on the right, people on the left, economists across the spectrum. This is bad policy that's hurting people, raising costs and costing us jobs. It has to stop, and Congress needs to do its job.
And a lot of what you're saying in terms of doing your job, I've also heard you hear in many of your recent interviews about a new face and a new energy and a new generation of leaders that are entering Congress and the Senate. Now, you've been there for quite some time, but there is this question I'm hearing from folks now, and Democratic sources are telling me that maybe it is time for a new face of the Democratic Party and out with some old leadership. And I think they're referencing Chuck Schumer, and especially what happened with the vote in terms of the budget. So do you see yourself as the new leader of the Democratic Party? Do you want that?
Well, what I want is for the next generations of American leadership to step up, to stand up, and to start to lead, not wait for position or title, but show by your actions you're a leader. No matter what you want to say, from Nancy Pelosi to Chuck Schumer to Donald Trump, these are the last baby boomer presidents of leadership here in Washington. And they're in their 70s and 80s, and God bless them. They have records of service, but the reality is it's time for us to bring about a new generation of American leadership, X-Geners, millennials, Gen Z even. I believe it's time for this generation of Americans to dream America anew, and for many Americans that have given up hope on the American dream, the hope on the promise that every generation will do better than the one before, who don't believe that America serves their family's ability to meet ends meet and to reach for their dreams. It's time for us to redeem that dream with a new generation that has a new vision. And that's what I hope to provide and earn my state's respect, that I'm one of the leaders in America that's charting the next generation that's going to step forward and say America's going to be bolder and better, more audacious, and we're going to do great things together.
And speaking of new leadership, there is a race for governor in New Jersey happening right now, and it's a wide open field in terms of the Democrats. I'm speaking to Sean Spiller right after you today, and I've spoken to a number of the candidates along the way. Is there someone who you are throwing your support behind heading into the Democratic primary?
No, we have an extraordinary field of candidates. So many of them are my friends, from people like Ras Baraka, who is my mayor, and he and I, since our 20s, have been friends, all the way to Congress people that I serve with, like Gottheimer and Sherrill. So I'm staying out of this. I'm just cheering on for the best candidate to emerge so that we can continue a lot of the important work on everything from public education and health care to sound economic stewardship. And I will support whoever wins the Democratic primary.
Senator Cory Booker, I know you're very busy. I appreciate your time and what is happening and playing out in real time right now. And it's a very busy time for the country and you. So thank you for making the time.
No, I'm grateful. I look forward to getting together with you every time we have an opportunity. So thank you.
All right. And up next, everybody, we continue to talk to the candidates running for New Jersey governor, staying over in the Garden State right after the break and going one-on-one with Sean Spiller, the New Jersey Education Association president, who has his eyes on the Garden State's top office. Picks on Politics back in just 2 minutes.